After the guest had departed the hotel, Shannon was cleaning the room and making the bed as normal. Shannon loved working there, especially since it included accommodations, and her shift was in full flow. During her downtime, Shannon thought back on her turbulent life. Fate had not been on her side, so there was plenty to think about. Shannon was born into a typical, low-income family and grew up in a tiny village. Her mother was an accountant, and her father was a sawmill worker. Pasta and potatoes dominated their diets, with occasional treats saved for special occasions. The newest technology or trendy attire were not acceptable. Shannon frequently fantasized about growing up, graduating, and traveling to the capital with her best friend Lisa when they were in school. Like in the movies, the girl's innocent fantasies featured wealthy princes and high-profile occupations. They were both attractive, after all. "Well, Shannon, I found a job in the capital at a trendy new cafe." Lisa hurried to Shannon after graduation with excitement. "I'm getting a job as a kitchen assistant. My mother's acquaintance came to my aid by putting in a good word. As we dreamed, you ought to accompany me. Together, it will be more enjoyable. You'll get hired as a waiter, I'm sure." Here, we'd exhausted our possibilities. Are we worse than the others who have left? Here, what are we able to do? It's a dead end. These dirty streets, narrow-minded people, and drunks at the gates are so boring. There, life is very different. The concept thrilled Shannon. She went to her parents after her companion departed. "I'm going, Mom and Dad. Lisa urges that I accompany her to the capital, where she offers me a job at the cafe. We might be able to get there and live in the large metropolis. Are you going to let me leave?" When her mother heard this shocking news, she broke down in tears and attempted to talk her out of it. "What are you thinking, my daughter? You want to visit the capital, but why? I assumed you would attend a nearby town's sewing school before we set you up with a job at a tailor's shop. The need for skilled seamstresses is constant, so you wouldn't go without money. Staying here is preferable because we'll be close by and you won't go hungry at least." Shannon sneered. "Your tailor store is not anything I desire. This is not how I want to live. I'm not interested in it. I've decided to go, and I'm going. This area is a marsh, a dead end, and is populated by elderly people and drinkers. I want to try the better venues that young people are going to. I'm 18 now, and I make the decisions about how I want to live. I'll prepare myself before Lisa decides otherwise." Unintentionally, Shannon came across her adoption certificate while sorting through her papers. It made it quite evident that she was not the biological child of her parents. When she was 3 years old, she was adopted from an orphanage. Shannon asked her parents, "Mom, what is this?" as she exited the living room in disbelief. "Is this accurate? Why haven't you told me all along? How were you able to? When I was younger, I asked you 100 times who I looked like, and you always replied that I was like my grandmother. May she rest in peace." Her mother covered her face with her hands and wept, while her father began to explain everything. "Don't judge us, daughter. Listen to me. Your mother and I longed for a child. We visited countless doctors, but it was all in vain. The verdict was harsh. We would never have children of our own. Years passed quickly, and without a child, we felt incomplete. So we decided to adopt a baby from the orphanage. We entered the playroom, and you came running to us, extending your arms and asking, 'Are you my daddy and mommy? Can I be your daughter?' We all cried. It was such a touching moment. From that day on, we were inseparable. We didn't even consider anyone else. Yes, we may not be millionaires, and we live modestly, but we loved you with all our hearts. We sacrificed ourselves to ensure you were dressed as well as anyone else. Did you really think your life would have been better if you had stayed at the orphanage? Why didn't we tell you? Because we never saw you as an adopted child. You are our daughter, and that's it. We will always wait for you and love you." Shannon felt a deep sense of shame. Her father was right. Parents are not the ones who give birth and abandon, but the ones who raise and love. She had always felt her parents' love, and now it was clear to her. Shannon approached her parents and embraced them. You're right, Daddy. I am sorry for my outburst. This news came as a shock to me. I never imagined I would be adopted. Thank you for raising me and loving me. You have never been and will never be strangers to me. Please support me and allow me to go. I am not simply searching for an easy way out or a good job. I want to experience a better life. Shannon's parents accepted her decision with heavy hearts. They gave her all their small savings, hoping it would be enough for her initial needs. So Shannon and Lisa embarked on their journey to conquer the capital. At the beginning, things were going really well. Shannon was hired as a waitress, and the girls rented a 2-bedroom apartment. Life was exciting. Despite the exhaustion after long shifts, the girls still dreamed of finding their princes. And one day, a prince walked into their cafe. Shannon noticed every detail of his features as he carelessly fixed his hair, sat down, smiled charmingly, and looked directly at her. "I'm ready to order," he said. Shannon didn't walk, she floated. For some reason, this stylish and well-dressed young man instantly caught her attention. She graciously served him, prioritizing him over other customers. When he left, she found a note on a napkin with sprawling handwriting. "Waiting for you tomorrow at 8 p.m. sharp at the entrance to the cafe. I hope to see you, my queen." Shannon almost jumped for joy. Of course, the next day she arrived at the designated place at the appointed time. Despite her doubts, she couldn't pass up the chance to get to know him better. Even though her friend Lisa warned her, "Where are you going? You don't know him at all. What if he's a fool or a maniac? Are you not scared of potential dangers?" But Shannon felt that he was a great guy, and she couldn't pass up such an opportunity. While she was nervous and contemplating, a fancy car pulled up at the cafe, and her prince got out and extended his hand. "Well, hello, my queen. Take a seat in the car. My name is Kyle, and I'm glad you decided to come after all. I promise you an unforgettable day. Our first date will be memorable." Blushing, Shannon got into the car, and they drove off, not just anywhere, but to a concert of a trendy youth band. It was almost impossible to get tickets as they were expensive and sold out in advance. Shannon had never experienced such emotions from a live performance before. Surrounded by crowds of fans, she felt the holiday atmosphere and had the most beautiful guy by her side. The romance with Kyle progressed quickly. Shannon was over the moon. After all, she had never been given flowers before. And now there were roses in armfuls, ardor and confessions, and passionate kisses in the moonlight. It felt like she had won the lottery. Soon, Kyle proposed to Shannon, and they became officially engaged. After the engagement, Kyle invited her to live together, and she agreed. Shannon hoped that he would immediately rent them a separate place, but the guy was happy to live in the huge house of his parents, and so far, he was in no hurry to solve this issue. Except that his mother was not delighted with the idea. She considered Shannon a cheap provincial, not worthy of their son. Shannon also felt coldness on her part, but nevertheless decided to move. Kyle also persuaded her to quit her job at the cafe. "Honey, why would you want to work there? My family has enough money to support us. We won't need anything. Besides, I'm jealous and don't want other men looking at you. You're mine and no one else's. Do you understand?" Lisa, upon hearing everything, began to argue with Shannon. It was the first time they fought like crazy. "Shannon, what are you doing? Come to your senses. Why are you leaving your job? It's a normal job that pays well, and you'll always have money in your pocket and receive decent tips. Don't you realize that living under the same roof as your fiancé's parents and depending on them is a foolish idea? Why doesn't Kyle marry you now? Then you would have been his lawful wife, and now you're just a guest who could be kicked out in a minute. You're being foolish, Shannon. You'll regret it later." Shannon took great offense at her friend and tried to justify her decisions. "You're just jealous of my happiness, aren't you? Well, I'll be living in a mansion while you work in the kitchen. My Kyle loves me and will never hurt me. I didn't think you could be so mean, Lisa." Shannon imagined a future filled with happiness with her lover. She would help at home, greet her beloved when he returned from work. watch romantic movies together, go for walks, and do this every day. Surely a wedding would happen soon since her beloved gave her an engagement ring. However, as soon as she moved in, life stopped resembling a fairy tale. Kyle usually went to the university in the morning, leaving Shannon to spend the whole day with his mother. That's when the intrigues of the future mother-in-law began. Whenever Shannon tried to cook something, Mrs. Fuller would interfere. "Sweetie, what are you doing in my kitchen? And what's that awful smell of garlic all over the house?" Shannon blushed and stammered, "Good morning. I decided to bake chicken with garlic and spices. It will be delicious." Mrs. Fuller grimaced. "And who asked you to do that?" "We have Laura, the cook. She's a great cook, according to the menu and my wishes. So let this be the last time. Clean up after yourself and throw the chicken and your culinary masterpieces in the trash." "What were you thinking, taking over my house?" Shannon flared up. "I'm actually your son's fiancé. He invited me here himself. Don't you want your son to be happy? Why should we fight?" The woman laughed. "Of course, I want the best for my son, except it has nothing to do with you. Kyle is a very amorous boy. He has bought into your pretty face and shape, but believe me, it won't last long. Soon, he'll realize that you're nothing and he'll dump you. Just so you know." Shannon burst into tears and ran to her and Kyle's room. She locked herself in there and didn't come out until the evening. She was so hurt and humiliated for nothing. In the evening, she told everything to Kyle. He promised to talk to his mother. But when he entered her bedroom, he saw that his mother was lying with a towel on her forehead, and there were pills on the bedside table. Kyle became worried. "Mom, what's wrong with you? Are you sick?" The woman moaned quietly, holding her head. "I don't feel well today, son. My blood pressure is skyrocketing." "Are you nervous again? How many times have I told you? And you're at it again." "I wanted to talk to you. Please don't hurt Shannon. I love her very much. She's been crying all day. Why are you doing this to her? She just wanted to make me happy and cook dinner." "What's wrong with that?" "Come on, son. Go insult your mother. Your redneck is unbearable. She doesn't know any manners or decency. For your information, all I did was ask her to clean up after herself. You should have seen the mess she made in the kitchen. It took poor Laura an hour to clean up after her." Such quarrels began to occur almost daily. All this poured out on Kyle from both sides, and the guy finally couldn't take it anymore. He himself had already had enough of living with Shannon. He wanted freedom, clubs, and parties as before, not to listen to complaints in the evenings and watch the bride whine. So he, not thinking long, one evening took and threw the girl out with the words, "That's it. This can no longer continue. We decided to live together too early. We are not ready for family life. Sorry, but it's better to break up. Pack your things. I'll call you a cab." The girl was in shock. She sobbed and begged her fiancé to come to his senses. She cried that she had nowhere to go and that she had lost her job because of him. But Kyle only grew angry. "Listen, Shannon, this already looks like blackmail. Do you hear me? I don't want to live with you anymore. You'll think of something, find a new job, rent an apartment. What's it got to do with me? We're breaking up." Just like that, Shannon, like a stray dog or an unwanted toy, was thrown out of the house. The cab driver, seeing the poor girl's condition, couldn't stand it and asked where to take her and what had happened. Shannon told him everything. She had nothing to lose. "I don't care. Take me wherever you want as long as it's far away from here. I lost my job. I have nowhere to live. And now my fiancé left me and threw me out. So I don't care. I'll have to spend the night at the station, I guess. There's nowhere else. I'm such an idiot. It's all my own fault. My friend warned me it would be like this. Only I, a fool in love, didn't listen to her." The elderly cab driver shook his head. He himself had a daughter about the same age. Then suddenly he said, "That's a situation. Don't go to the train station. There's all sorts of scum there. And you know what? I was paid generously today. I'll leave you some money, enough for a night in a hotel. In the morning, try to get work there. You can live there too if they'll take you as a maid. It's a suitable option for you. Don't be sour. It'll work out." Shannon looked at the man gratefully. "Thank you very, very much." The girl rented a room, and the next morning, she asked for a job. She was lucky. There was a vacancy, and she was hired even with accommodation. They gave her a tiny room, a table, and a bed, but she was happy about it. In her mind, she thanked the cab driver who had helped her. She didn't want to go back to Lisa and admit that her friend was right about everything. Shannon approached her job with great enthusiasm, ensuring that the room sparkled after her cleaning. Everything seemed perfect, except for one thing. The administrator, Frank, had his eye on the attractive young maid and saw an opportunity for some fun. However, Shannon swiftly rejected his advances, leaving him resentful and plotting to find a way to get rid of her. Furthermore, Shannon noticed that Frank was taking home various items from the hotel: cleaning products, towels, slippers, and bathrobes. With her naive simplicity, she started asking uncomfortable questions. Why are we running out of cleaning supplies so quickly? What happened to the package of fragrant soap? Frank became furious and warned Shannon repeatedly to keep quiet and mind her own business. However, despite his anger, he couldn't find a reason to dismiss her. Shannon worked diligently, never slacking off or being lazy. One evening, during a snowstorm with strong winds and snow pounding against the windows, the hotel was closed for the night due to safety concerns. Late into the night, the intercom rang, surprising Shannon. She asked who was there and heard a desperate, feeble voice. "Please open the door. I'm pregnant and freezing. I have nowhere else to go." Shannon's heart turned upside down. She remembered the time when she was in a similar situation, sobbing in a taxi, not knowing where to spend the night. Without hesitation, she opened the door and let the stranger in. The young woman, poorly dressed and shivering, appeared to be around the same age as Shannon. She wore a thin jacket that was inappropriate for the weather and a silk scarf instead of a hat. Her hands were blue from the cold, and her large belly indicated that she was in her last weeks of pregnancy. The stranger begged, "Please don't chase me away. Just let me stay for one night. I promise I'll leave in the morning. I'm not a troublemaker. My landlord raised the rent, and when I asked for more time, he kicked me out. I'm even willing to sleep on a chair just so I don't freeze to death." Shannon felt immense sympathy for the poor girl and was about to let her stay when the administrator rushed in. Upon seeing the situation, he immediately began shouting. He scolded Shannon severely. "Are you out of your mind? How could you let this beggar in without any money? This is a respectable hotel, not a homeless shelter. Tell her to leave immediately." Frank pushed the unfortunate woman out of the lobby, and Shannon could hear him berating her as she left. 15 minutes later, when Frank left for home, Shannon quietly opened the front door, hoping that the girl hadn't gone too far. She found her frozen and destitute, sitting on a bench, shivering and stamping her feet. Snow was accumulating on her, making her appear like a small snowdrift. Shannon softly called out to her, and the girl approached with joy. The maid whispered, "Go around to the back of the hotel where there are no cameras. I'll let you in through the back door. You can sleep in my room, and no one will know. Just please leave in the morning, or I'll get into trouble." The pregnant woman ran around the building and, like a mouse, followed Shannon silently into her room, finding warmth and safety. "Thank you so much. You saved my life and the life of my child," she said with tears in her eyes. "My name is Thea. I grew up in an orphanage, and my life was tough. After graduating, I was given a room in a dilapidated house that was scheduled for demolition. I found work as a courier and met my fiancé Paul. He was a laborer at a construction site. At first, we lived in my place. But then there was an electrical fire, and everything burned down. We started renting an apartment, and I became pregnant. We were so happy and even applied for marriage. I was the happiest woman alive. Paul loved me so much. And then he died. He fell from a height, and there was no insurance. That day, my life stopped. I still cry and can't get over it. I dream about him a lot. I worked as much as I could as a courier, hiding my belly under hoodies and sweatshirts, but I only earned enough for rent and food. When they found out I was pregnant, they stopped giving me work. Then, then the landlord decided to increase the rent. He became angry when I couldn't pay a month's rent and threw me out onto the street. And someone has been following me. Recently, I narrowly escaped being hit by a car. It was clearly intentional. I was crossing the street when the car sped toward me. I managed to jump out of the way. In a dark alley, two guys wearing hoodies surrounded me, pulled out a knife, and tried to steal my bag. One of them had a Dar tattoo on his neck. Luckily, the janitor scared them off. Thanks to him, I'm still alive. I don't understand anything. Why have all these misfortunes come to me, and why am I so scared? I'm all alone in this world. I've never done anything bad to anyone. To tell you the truth, when that man pushed me out of the hotel, I didn't want to go anywhere. I thought it would be quicker to freeze and die rather than suffer. I have no strength to fight any further. Shannon only shook her head. In the meantime, she warmed some tea and made sandwiches with sausage. She handed them to the pregnant woman and said, "Don't cry, Thea. Take it, eat it, you need it. Have some hot tea, it will warm you up faster. You must have seriously crossed someone's path. Maybe you should go to the police. Lie on my bed, I'll sleep on the floor. We'll get along well together. I understand and sympathize with you. I was on the street myself. I didn't want to live either. My fiancé left me, but kind people helped me, and I gradually got out of it. I moved on. I'm homeless myself. I'm living in a hotel here. So now, let's go to bed. I have to get up early tomorrow, and an hour in the morning is worth 2 in the evening. Good night." But in the morning, there was a huge scandal. Frank had come in early for an inspection and was immediately informed that Shannon had let that damn beggar into her room and left her there overnight. Frank was just waiting for this. This was it, the right moment. He burst into Shannon's room without knocking and started shouting, "Get out, both of you. Shannon, you're fired. You'll get your paycheck from the accounting department. This is unheard of. It's not enough that we've taken you in, but you think it's okay to bring in all sorts of lousy homeless people. What kind of reputation will we have after that? Decent people stay in our hotel, and people like you belong in a lodging house. And you, mother-to-be, get up. On your way out, or else you'll give birth here, and we'll be in trouble." Shannon cried, begged him to spare her, swore that this would not happen again. But Frank was relentless. He gave her half a month's wages and fired her. Both girls wandered sluggishly to the bus stop and cried, each in her own way. Thea wailed, "Forgive me, Shannon. It's all because of me. Now you have nowhere to sleep, you've lost your job. I'm so embarrassed in front of you." Shannon thought to herself, "Well, I've done a good deed. I helped a woman in need. But now I have a problem because of it. I'm always finding my own adventure. What kind of stupid character am I? I always feel sorry for everyone." But she answered out loud, "I'll go to my friends. I'll stay there for a while. And if I don't find another job, I'll go back to my parents' village. At least I have a roof over my head. But you, how will you deal with your problems? I can't even imagine. You're going to have a baby soon." Shannon looked at Thea, who was shaking from the cold. Without thinking, she pulled the money Frank had given her from her bag. She kept some bills for herself and handed the rest to Thea. "Here, take it. It will come in handy for you. It's enough for a month's rent for a room. I'm sorry I don't have more. And put on my hat. You mustn't catch a cold. I have a warm hood anyway. Well, I have to go. My bus is here. Goodbye. Good luck to you." The girls hugged each other like old friends and said their goodbyes. Shannon arrived at Lisa's house, who let her in, but with displeasure. When she heard all about Shannon's adventures, she exclaimed, "Oh, Shannon, you're such a fool. You've made such a mess. You've lost your second job in the capital. But tell me, who is this girl to you? Why did you take her in? You even gave her your last money. How are you going to live your life? And as for your fiancé, I warned you this would happen. When are you going to wise up? By the way, the landlady has already found me a second tenant. She'll be moving in soon, so I can't keep you here for long. I'm sorry." Shannon stirred the tea in her glass, realizing that her friend was right about everything. That she couldn't let a pregnant girl freeze outside and sleep soundly herself. That's just the way she is. Shannon sighed heavily and replied, "I understand. I've burdened you like a snowball. I'll try to find a job and a place to live as soon as possible. I'll start making calls right now." 2 weeks passed, but Shannon couldn't find a job, not even as a waitress. She also saw that Lisa was getting more and more nervous, although she didn't show it. Shannon felt like a burden, so after some thought, she decided to give up and go back home. Unlucky her, no matter what anyone said. Shannon walked gloomily to the station, dragging her suitcase behind her. She choked on tears because she hadn't achieved anything. She had wasted her parents' money. Suddenly, an expensive car slowed down next to her. But she didn't even raise her head or care until she heard a familiar voice. "Hello, Shannon. You didn't recognize me, right? It's me, Thea." Shannon looked up and closely examined the skinny, stylishly dressed beauty with a fashionable haircut. She gasped. It really was Thea, but she had transformed so much. Shannon greeted her. "Thea, what a surprise. I never expected to see you, let alone in such an expensive car. You look beautiful. How have you been?" Thea smiled and said, "Get in the car. I'll tell you everything on the way. Something unbelievable has happened to me." Shannon hesitated and replied, "Well, I have a train to catch. I'm going home. The city didn't welcome me. I couldn't fit in, and I can't rely on my friend anymore. I'm ashamed." Thea interrupted her. "Where are you going? Your trip ends here. You're coming to my place. Refusing is not an option, or I'll be offended." Shannon was even more stunned. "To your place? Didn't you say you were an orphan with nowhere to live?" Thea laughed. "That was true until a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm a rich heiress, and my father is a millionaire. We live in a country mansion. Come on, get in. I don't like chatting on the driveway." Unable to resist the offer, Shannon got into the car, thinking to herself, "I have nothing to lose anyway. What difference does it make when I leave? At least I will hear all the news." When the chauffeur brought the girls to Thea's new home, Shannon was simply astounded by the beauty and luxury. They were greeted by a tall, sickly-looking man who politely said hello. "This is my dad, Gavin McDonald. And this is Shannon, the very savior who gave me a helping hand at the most difficult moment and saved my life, and your grandson's. By the way, where is my little treasure?" The man smiled and replied, "Don't worry, Tommy is sleeping. The nanny is nearby. Everything is fine. Shannon, I'm overjoyed to meet you in person, and sincerely thank you for helping my daughter. I assume you don't know anything yet. Then go and have a chat with each other. I'll look after my grandson." The girls entered the luxurious living room. Shannon couldn't contain herself and said, "Thea, please tell me everything. I still can't believe what I'm seeing." Shannon sat down in an armchair, and then Thea began to tell her story. "When we parted at the bus stop, I planned to look for a cheaper hostel or room, but because of all the stress and worries, my belly started to ache, and I was taken by ambulance to the maternity hospital a week earlier than expected. That same night, I gave birth to Tommy. Thank God everything went well. I lay in the ward, unsure whether to rejoice or cry. Where would I go with a baby in my arms? I was in total despair. They brought him to me for feeding, and I kissed his little nose, crying and thinking about what I could give him and how we would survive. No stroller, no diapers, no roof over our heads. Then, the next morning, an elderly man came to my room with flowers. He looked so frail and pale. He said, 'My name is Gavin McDonald. I'm sorry, daughter, but I'm your father.' I was shocked, of course. He told me that he was a rich businessman who built an entire business empire on his own. Initially, he was just an ordinary traveling salesman. Back then, he was engaged to a nice, simple girl named Marcy. They loved each other. She came from a poor family but was kind, sympathetic, and very gentle. She hoped for a quick wedding, but things turned out differently. My father got into trouble with the mafia, and those were tough times. He had to run away, so he cut off all ties with his beloved in one fell swoop. You could say he betrayed her and disappeared from her life without any explanation. He didn't want to involve her in his problems. He decided it was better for everyone that way. Many years passed. Dad built a successful business, and his career was on the rise. He married another woman. His new wife already had a son named David. On the surface, they seemed to be living a good life, but deep down, my father never truly loved her. He just decided to conform to societal expectations. Dad provided for the family entirely. His wife never had to work a day in her life. He treated David as his own and tried to give him the best. However, David always had a cold attitude towards my father and disliked him. Throughout the years, my father's heart was always burdened with regret. He often thought of Marcy, the woman he had mistreated. He knew that no one had ever truly loved him except her, but the weight of his business took a toll on him, consuming him completely. 6 months ago, he received devastating news: a terminal illness with no chance of recovery. It was a cruel disease, rendering money powerless. During this time, the true nature of his wife and stepson was revealed. They showed their true colors, eagerly waiting for him to pass away so they could swiftly claim his millions. As his health declined, he found himself alone and abandoned, with no one willing to care for him. In this dark moment, he decided to write a will. Amidst the deteriorating family relationships, my father's thoughts returned to Marcy. He wondered about her life, whether she had married or had children. Through detectives, he discovered that Marcy had tragically passed away during childbirth and that their child had been placed in an orphanage. While saddened by the loss of his beloved, my father held on to the hope that he had a biological child. The detectives eventually found me, but it took time. Aware that time was not on his side, my father included me in his will. The company was left to his stepson. His wife received lifetime benefits, and I inherited all the property and accounts. However, the cunning stepson caught wind of the will and bribed a corrupt notary to reveal its contents. He shared the information with his mother, and they hatched a plan to find and eliminate me, fearing I would inherit everything. I remember feeling followed that night. My dad's stepson pursued me in the alley, attempting to get rid of me. He even tried to run me over with a car. It was a miracle that I survived. Finally, my father found me in the hospital and came to visit. When I was discharged, he accompanied me, and that's when I saw my stepbrother for the first time. As I looked at him, I realized with horror that he was the same person who had ambushed me in the alley. His tattoo gave him away. I immediately burst into tears, frightened, and confided in my father about everything. My father exposed the villains, and now David and his mother are under investigation. I hope they receive the punishment they deserve and do not escape justice. And that's how it happened. Daddy, Tommy, and I now live in this mansion. I'm filled with happiness. I shed so many tears in the orphanage, longing for a home, a father, and a mother like everyone else, hoping to escape the teasing of being an orphan. Now, my dearest childhood dream has come true. Shannon listened intently, captivated by the tale that unfolded before her. It seemed like a thrilling detective story or a TV series. Could such a thing truly happen in real life? She expressed her congratulations to Thea, amazed by her luck in finding her father and inheriting wealth so suddenly. Shannon also shared her own story, how she loved her adoptive parents but yearned to discover her roots and the blood that flowed within her. Thea embraced her friend warmly. "Don't be sad, Shannon. If it's meant to be, you will find your roots too. Come, let me introduce you to my son, and then we can have dinner together." Quietly entering the nursery, Thea smiled at her baby, who was just waking up in the cradle, smacking his lips and blinking his eyes. Shannon couldn't help but smile at the adorable sight. Thea offered Shannon the chance to hold the baby, and she did so carefully, rocking him gently. Little Tommy grumbled and wrinkled his nose in dissatisfaction. Thea took him back, and he immediately settled down, covering his eyes. It was a heartwarming moment. Later, they had dinner in the dining room, and Shannon felt surprisingly at ease and welcomed in this house. Thea's father proved to be a pleasant and interesting man, radiating warmth and kindness. His love for Thea and his grandchild was evident. He shared his story of finding his daughter and expressed remorse for the wasted years spent with his greedy wife and unloved stepson. Mr. McDonald was weak, with sunken eyes. He could hardly walk and soon went to his room, saying, "You won't believe it, Shannon, but Thea and my grandson have worked a miracle on me. When I learned about my diagnosis, I completely fell apart. I couldn't even get out of bed. To be honest, I didn't even want to live anymore." My wife laughed openly, and my stepson became rude. They had no intention of taking care of me. All I wanted was to die quickly and escape the pain and despair. But when the detectives informed me about my biological daughter, I immediately felt a glimmer of hope. Holding Tommy in my arms, I decided that I would fight until the end. I am currently undergoing chemotherapy. The fact that I am now back on my feet is truly a miracle. My daughter is taking good care of me, and her concern means the world to me. Shannon, please don't rush to leave. What would you do in the village? Besides, my daughter and I have decided to help you settle down in the capital. She will explain everything to you later. For now, I need to lie down and take a nap. The friends chatted for a long time, taking care of Tommy and retiring to their rooms very late. Shannon had not experienced such a peaceful and restful sleep in a long time. In the morning, she was awakened by Thea, who spoke mysteriously. "Get up, sleepyhead. Great things are waiting for us. I asked the nanny to watch over Tommy for a couple of hours before feeding. We need to hurry." Shannon rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked, "What's the rush? I don't understand what's going on. Why all the secrecy?" Thea winked and replied, "You'll find out soon enough. Get ready. I'll make us some tea." An hour later, they arrived at the same hotel where they had first met. Shannon was confused and said, "Thea, why are we here? I was kicked out. Have you forgotten? They won't take me back, I'm sure of it." I can imagine the unpleasant things that Administrator Frank said to the director. Her friend stubbornly led her inside and smiled enigmatically. They entered the director's office, which was empty. Thea said, "Take a seat. This is now your office. I think it's a cozy workspace. My father and I bought this hotel, and now you are its rightful owner. Do you still think you shouldn't stay in the capital?" Shannon was shocked. Tears welled up in her eyes. She exclaimed, "Thea, is this some kind of joke? Are you playing a prank on me? I can't believe it." Her friend showed her the documents and said, "We will finalize everything today. That's why I've been looking for you. This, Shannon, is my way of saying thank you. When you were homeless and penniless, you selflessly helped me when I needed it most. You saved a stranger from death without hesitation. That's why I am grateful to you, my dear. There is no one like you in the world. Thank you. I believe you will be a great leader, honest and fair. So go ahead. I wish you the best of luck." Shannon rushed to hug her friend and whispered, "Thank you, Thea. I will never forget this. Can we start tomorrow? The first thing I want to do is get rid of that obnoxious receptionist. I've seen him steal everything, even toilet paper. I don't need that kind of staff." Shannon took charge seriously. She reorganized the entire staff, retaining only the best employees. She scrutinized all the reports and often stayed late at her new workplace. The staff looked at her with respect, eager to please her. Frank repeatedly pleaded for leniency and to be rehired, but Shannon remained firm. Initially, it was challenging for her, as she had little experience in business and often sought advice from Mr. McDonald. He patiently and meticulously explained everything to her, never becoming annoyed or angry. Very soon, business was thriving. Shannon hired a professional chef for the mini cafe and began serving delicious and exquisite dishes. They also created a comfortable lounge area where guests could relax, have a cup of coffee, and engage in discussions. Discounts were offered to frequent customers, and a website was launched for advanced seat reservations. These efforts paid off, and there were never any vacant rooms. Shannon's life was transformed, painted with vibrant new colors. She and Thea became the best of friends, and Shannon became Tommy's godmother. Shannon earned a decent income, rented an apartment, and sent a significant amount of money to her foster parents. At first, her mother was worried. "Daughter, tell us the truth. Where did you get all this money? It's strange. Suddenly you have a rich friend who makes you the head of a hotel. It sounds like a fairy tale. We're excited, dear." Shannon laughed over the phone and replied, "Mom, when have I ever lied to you? It's all true. I can hardly believe it myself. Just be happy for me." Mr. McDonald had been persistently undergoing treatment all this time. One day, Thea shared with him that Shannon wanted to find out something about her parents. The businessman thought for a moment and replied, "You know what? Let me involve my team again. They can search through the archives of the orphanage where Shannon was before getting a new family." A week later, the shocking truth was revealed. Shannon hurried to Mr. McDonald's hospital because Thea said it was very urgent. She was worried that things with Mr. McDonald had taken a turn for the worse. However, when Shannon entered the room, she saw Thea and her father glowing with happiness. "Well, hello, sister. I knew from the very first time we met that you were more than just a friend to me. That's the reason we became such close friends," exclaimed Thea. "You've always dreamed of finding out whose blood runs through your veins, right? So, there is a result of the investigation." Shannon was confused and didn't understand what was happening. With tears in his eyes, Mr. McDonald began to speak. "Daughter Shannon, I apologize for not knowing about you, for not raising you, and for not helping you all these years. But I am overjoyed to have a family again and another wonderful daughter. My detectives did an impressive job, and this is what they discovered. It turns out that Marcy gave birth to twins, you and Thea. However, she died during childbirth, and they started searching for any relatives. They found an old great-aunt who took pity on them and adopted one of the babies. That baby was Shannon. Unfortunately, she couldn't take you in due to your age, so you ended up in the baby house. But the elderly relative could only care for Shannon for a year before she passed away from a heart attack. That's how you ended up in a different orphanage. Fate separated you for many years, and it's all my fault. I abandoned Marcy then, like a coward and a scoundrel, and ran away, only looking out for myself. Now, I realize the extent of my actions. If I hadn't been there, both her life and mine could have turned out very differently. I can imagine how frightened Marcy must have been, how bitter and hurt she felt after being betrayed. I believe my illness is a punishment for my terrible sin. Forgive me, my girl. I was a good-for-nothing father, caring for other people's children without even knowing about my own daughters. Unfortunately, I cannot turn back time, although I wish I could. But I promise to love you both until my last breath and make up for everything we've missed." The three of them embraced each other and sat like that for a long time, holding hands, experiencing these new and exciting moments. It felt as if their lives had been reset and were starting anew. Shannon moved into a mansion, and then they all lived together as a family. One day, they were invited to an art show, a charity event where the proceeds would be donated to the Cancer Fund. Thea and Shannon looked stunning in their long, form-fitting dresses, which accentuated their flawless figures. Mr. McDonald, now in remission, walked around the gallery with his daughters. They enthusiastically discussed the paintings and contemplated which ones to purchase. Suddenly, they bumped into Kyle, Shannon's former fiancé, and his unpleasant mother, Mrs. Fuller. Mr. McDonald, who was acquainted with this family, greeted them politely, saying, "Good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce my dear and beloved daughters, Thea and Shannon. By the way, Mrs. Fuller, have you decided to introduce your son to art? That's commendable. Look, girls, he's quite the catch. He's tall and handsome," the businessman joked. Shannon felt a shiver run down her spine. She wanted so badly to say some unpleasant words to Kyle and his mother, but instead, She smiled charmingly and replied casually, "Unfortunately, Daddy, Kyle is not my type at all. Let someone else have such a treasure. What a lucky bride she will be. The groom is handsome, and the mother-in-law is a sweetheart, aren't you?" With that, Shannon and Theo walked away, continuing to enjoy the artwork. Mrs. Fuller whispered angrily, "Well, look at this insolent woman. She humiliated both of us. I thought she had already gone to her village, but here comes the news. She's a millionaire's daughter. It's amazing. Who would have known we would be so rich now, being related to such an important person? Kyle, can you even hear me? Why are you frozen like a statue? Go catch up with them and try to make another move on that fool. You did it the first time." The man was furious. "Mom, leave me alone. By the way, if it weren't for you, Shannon and I would have been married a long time ago. I'm sick of your boring paintings. I'm going home. I need to be alone." Kyle returned home, locked himself in his room, and drank cognac straight from the bottle. Seeing Shannon so beautiful and happy today, he suddenly realized what a fool he had been for listening to his mother and rejecting his bride. They truly and sincerely love each other. The way she looked at him today, "You're nothing," was clear in her eyes. And the worst part, she's right. Did he have the right to do that to the girl he loved? Shannon believed in him. She resigned from her job and moved out of her apartment. He promised not to betray her and to be there for her. And what happened? He threw her out, with no money and nowhere to go. And he quietly continued living, amusing himself with the next empty girls who hung on him in packs. Kyle now felt angry at himself and regretted his actions. He realized that nothing could be undone. It was too late. Thea and Shannon, who had both experienced betrayal and difficult relationships with men, decided to take their time before getting involved with anyone else. They simply enjoyed life. They found and restored their mother's grave, ordered a good gravestone for her, and visited it frequently to pay tribute to the woman who gave them life. Shannon, Thea, and their birth father visited Shannon's adoptive parents. Mr. McDonald never stopped thanking these simple people for taking Shannon in from the orphanage and giving her the comfort and warmth of a home that money can't buy. The parents were both happy and sad at the same time, constantly saying, "Don't forget about us now, daughter. Come visit more often. Remember, we will always wait for you and love you no matter what. Be happy, daughter. That's all that matters to us. We hope you will get married soon and give us a grandchild." Then they all sat down at the table, had lunch, and enjoyed tea and cake. Shannon's adoptive father held Tommy in his arms, and Tommy babbled in his own language. No one in this large family felt like they didn't belong. They truly felt good and at peace together.